Welcome to the Value of Recruitment podcast with me, John Brooks. Sponsored by Atlas, the recruitment platform helping you become an AI-powered recruiter. This week, I'm joined by Thomas Dove, founder and CEO of Fraser International, a global life sciences search firm obsessed with quality of hire. Tom defines his mission to be the most referred search firm in life sciences, and he explains how TDI's perfect process helps drive those referrals and create life-changing value. In our conversation, we talk about how Tom has built an ecosystem of products by identifying where his team adds value to clients and then productizing that approach to offer more value around everything related to search. We also talk about how to balance storytelling with data to communicate our value to clients and prospects. And Tom shares some fascinating insights into how to create high-quality outcomes across a business. Enjoy the show. I hope you find it valuable. Tom, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. Lots to talk about today, so let's jump in. We're going to kick off with the big one. In your eyes, how valuable is recruitment?
Good question. I think the value of recruitment is life-changing. So for me, it's like, and that's truly life-changing for all different aspects of it. The practitioners that are executing the search for the organization that they work for, obviously being a founder of a search firm, I know firsthand how kind the industry has been to me. And then also to see other people developing in this industry is absolutely fantastic. So a lot of people fall into it. But then the value of recruitment from a customer side, we work in life sciences. So if you get the hires right, that impacts the patient, okay, which is one of the most purposeful things that I think we could ever endeavor to do from a business standpoint. But then also it's the candidate that may need to change job, that may need to develop their career, move state, move country, that real life-changing aspect. And then it's also the hiring stakeholder, because there's a lot of stress often on leadership hires when they haven't gone right or they've been open for a long time. And I actually think that it's life-changing to get the right leaders in place that make the impact that they want. So yeah, I think it's very important.
That's a great phrase, life-changing. I love that. And obviously life sciences is part of that. I advise recruiters to always try and reflect back to their clients. Yeah, what's the end goal? What is the outcome that they want? So, for a finance team, that might be taking a business through to IPO, for example, not just you get us a new finance director. Do you find you have to remind your clients about the bigger picture, about the fact that they are potentially curing cancer or saving lives?
It depends on the stress level of the search project, I would say. Thankfully, the industry that we work within, the kind of life sciences space, is always so highly focused on the patient, the purpose, all of those kind of good things. But sometimes dependent on the overwhelm or the stress of the hiring stakeholders, be that talent acquisition, HR, or the hiring leaders themselves, sometimes you can feel that is secondary because maybe the search project's been open for a long time or whatever reason it might be. But then we always ask the question of like, why would somebody want to come and join your organization? Why did you join it? What's the narrative? What's the story that we can then tell to the candidates? And that's when they always click back in, which is quite nice to see. Because I've worked in other industries when I first started in recruitment 20 odd years ago, where you'd ask somebody why they joined and they wouldn't really have an answer for why they worked for a certain telco supplier. So actually now it's a little bit easier, but we just kind of try and remind our hiring stakeholders of the bigger picture at times just by asking a few smart questions.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Again, I don't think anyone should assume that their client can remember that, because you're right. Sometimes we get put into a transactional bucket. And if it's, there's a role that hasn't been filled, it's been there a long time, it's just a pain, it's just a problem, can we just get rid of it? you do forget that importance erodes away. And it's like, no, hang on. This is the person who is going to lead your team to greatness or save more lives in the future or drug discovery or whatever it is. It's an interesting one. How would you, looking back, how would you advise your former self, if you're dealing with telco clients, for example, who maybe don't know what their bigger picture is? How would you have done that, or how did you do that?
Yeah, back in those days, it was more about I've always been more of a storyteller when it comes to business or how to sell or get intrigue and interest from people. So I would always be quite curious as to asking enough questions so that then I'm building the narrative, so that then I'm going to speak to a group of candidates, as an example, that hadn't heard of ABC Telco or whoever it was. And you have to try and bring that to life to make it attractive for them. So, I've taken that from the early 2000s all the way through now to 2025, where I still think it's vitally important that we really understand the narrative of everything from us, how we do things, what makes us different, why our services are so important, through to the candidates, what makes them different, the story of their background, not just the technical aspects, how we really understand them and understand their experiences and examples of work. And then from a client perspective, what makes, and this might sound weird, but what makes one amazing scaling biotech that's going to solve cancer different to the next amazing bio? So it's like we're just trying to always find that narrative. That's what I've always tried to do.
Nice. Well, that brings us very nicely onto how do we create a narrative of value around recruitment and search. So you've alluded to some of it there, but how do you stand out from other agencies? How do you communicate that across to your clients?
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so I'll just kind of caveat this. So we do a lot of work internationally. I would say less than 1% is undertaken in the UK. We got offices in the UK, we've got offices in New York, we've got offices in Basel. So we're a truly global search firm. But I look at the UK market quite skeptically, because it seems like the narrative is that we're the problem and not always trying to solve the problem. Then you look in different countries where there's a much better, greater understanding of the value that we add. And that's where true business partnership comes in. So that's why I stopped working in the UK probably in 2000 and haven't looked back since. And I wouldn't say it's the market for us, but we focus on like outcomes. So when I'm talking about what differentiates us, we've now been working since 2013 as an organization. We have got quality of hire as our main metric of success. Now we have all these years of experience under our belt where we've done amazing search projects for our customers, where the talent has then gone in and been promoted 3 or 4 times within 5, 6, 7 years. So we're able to talk about that. A lot of other competitors will talk about speed or network or being cheaper, and we try and talk about impact as much as possible. So it's driven by quality and defined by impact, I would say.
Nice. I mean, it's a lovely phrase to say, isn't it? Those 3 aspects are really interesting. Cost and quality of hire. 2 of those are very easy to measure. Speed. Oh, I can get you a CV next week. Great. It's taken us 4 days to get someone over. Or even we can do time to hire. It's taken, that is a tangible, measurable thing. No one's going to argue with how long a day is, right? Likewise, cost. We fudge it as much as we can with percentages, but the cost is the cost. It's measurable. Everyone uses the same pounds and dollars measures for that. Quality of hire is the hard one. So while you'll tell us how well it works for you, what are the challenges of taking that on? It's ambiguous. Clients don't always think that way. So how have you overcome that? And why did you take on the bigger challenge?
Well, there's so many organizations at a lower competitive level than us okay, that are upselling their service and delivering a service which for us is not good enough, okay, where the quality of hire is just that they're churning through customers, churning through candidates consistently, and it just doesn't make any sense to me as a business owner, for starters, but certainly doesn't make any sense to the customers. Okay. So we were then able to say, look, the measures that we're putting in place to get your quality of hire right are X, Y, and Z. So it might be deeper discovery, understanding of what it is that you're looking for, a better candidate pack narrative of how to take your organization to the right talent pools, credibility in the marketplace, working through references and referrals. One of our OKRs is to be the most referred search firm in life sciences. That only comes from being extremely good. Okay. So it's like all of these aspects. On top of that, it's then the quality of the assessment of the people that we're finding. You can easily go and find candidates tomorrow, right, that you don't even really need to assess. Are you interested in making a move? Yes. Okay. Resume goes out the door. But that doesn't do anybody any favors if the candidate then goes and interviews and is terrible, or goes and interviews and has terrible values alignment, but can mask it during an interview process and then goes in and, has a terrible experience within an organization. So for us, it's like, it's not rocket science, but the better the service the customer has, the better the candidate that they get from us, the more likely they are to continue to work with us.
Yeah.
And the candidate, because we work at leadership layer, they will then be building teams, transforming teams, and also working with us. So yeah, it's just, I think there's way too much short term chasing the buck. Doesn't matter if the candidate's any good or not. We're the opposite. We're like, takes a little bit longer, might be more expensive, but you get a better result at the end for a longer period of time.
Yeah. And obviously now you've got over a decade of data and experience to say this is what has happened. I interviewed someone a couple of seasons ago, and they had this amazing story of they went to one of their clients' big internal conferences, and the kind of next gen leadership team got off on stage and were introduced to everyone, and she had placed every single one of them. So she was saying that's a fantastic feeling for her, but also her bond to that client is, she's such a big part of their story, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that. We've had similar things where, we're working with very large blue chips, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 people businesses. And then we've been speaking to different hiring stakeholders that we've not engaged with. And they'll kind of say, okay, so if quality of hire is so important to you, name some names of people that hired. And then we'd be able to reel off 3, 4, 5 of them. And then it's like, wow, okay, you guys did that. We want to work with you. So it's actually really good. But we're not an overly sales orientated company. We're not out there trying to knock every door down. But what we want is that kind of dark selling that's happening when we're not around to be, why we are the most referred search firm in life sciences. So we just got to try and work on that a little bit more. But yeah, it's nice to feel the appreciation of the work that you've done from different parts of the business that may not necessarily have worked with you.
Yeah. And you use the word storytelling. It's not something I hear that often. I think it would be a really useful thing to apply to recruitment more generally. How do you see the balance between persuading through data, and I'm thinking about persuading clients here and prospects, persuading through data versus narrative storytelling? How do you balance that? And what do you get your team to take to market?
Yeah, I mean, part of our go to market strategy when it comes to prospects or new customers is we have talent intelligence, which is data. So this is real time things that are happening in their market, in their skill domains, in their locations that we can go and discuss with them and say, look, in New Jersey, this is happening. These are the types of organizations that are hiring. These are the types of challenges that we're facing. These are the types of areas that you should be looking to relocate talent from. But then we're also able to go with the data and then with the context of the data. And that is the storytelling aspect. It's like, similar organizations to you are all upgrading their site leadership team and their quality leadership team. So we're having those conversations with them to say, look, the data says X, the movement is here, and then companies like yours, these are the changes that we've seen. So we try to sell through adding value and sharing data. And then in the middle of that is how you bring that story to life.
Yeah. I think because in my view, people buy in such different ways. There are so many different types of people out there. So some really engage with data. But I do sometimes worry that some recruitment agencies and search firms go out and say, we have a 95% fill rate. Yeah, and they just hammer the numbers without the context you talk about, without the story behind it. And a finance director might light up at those numbers. Maybe an engineering leader might say, great, I can see what those numbers mean. But I think there's more people out there, and there's people that are, it's still smart, intelligent leaders, but who want to see the emotive narratives in that.
Yeah, there's also plenty of experiences that I've seen in the marketplace where those data points are out there and are completely false. So it's like, I don't know who that benefits, but 100% fill rate was an example from a competitor that we have in the US, where we were winning lots of searches off them that they weren't completing. So it was like, I didn't quite understand what was going on there. So yeah, I think some of those data points are wild.
Yeah. Well, someone was filling it, but it was you.
It was us. Yeah, exactly.
Well, but between the two of us, everything's getting filled.
Yeah.
They're just not mentioning you. One of the other things I talk about a lot is I talk about different types of clients. One of the opportunities I think a lot of search firms have is to take different products to market. My worry is that a lot of us just go out and say, hang on, we can recruit that role. We'll find you your next person. And we might dress that up with some language, but it's a one size fits all approach. Now, I know you've developed an ecosystem of products. So tell us what that looks like, first of all.
Yeah. So it looks like reverse engineering some of the things that we were doing for customers, and then how we can productize those services. That's how it came to life, because it was like, as we were growing and scaling the business, we were helping problem solve more than ever, really leaning into the client relationship that we had. And it was like, okay, can you help us here? And I'd be like, yes, I said, yes, I can. And then we'll work it out together. And then actually we needed a couple of case studies of what you've done, how you've done it, how you'd improve it. And then my mind goes to like, well, why don't we productize that so that then we can start to speak to more customers and say, hey, look, we've helped these people do this. This is how we did it. This is the product or service. Okay, so that's how it was created. We always wanted to have search at the heart of everything that we did. Okay, so we're not now going to become a consultancy that moves away from the main thing that we're excellent at, but it's like, do we have other ecosystem products around that search process or search methodology that can help our customers? So when we broke it down, it was like search at the core, then we have service lines in assessment, attraction, onboarding, and retention. Okay, so they're all linked. And then when we were looking at how we could evolve different products and services in those worlds, there was lots of different things that we could have done, but it was about trying to pick the right products that our customers were ultimately going to be interested in.
Yeah. Tell us more about that kind of product discovery, that product development. How did you do that? How did you test it? And how did you, I guess the final decision was with you to decide, well, what do we go to market with?
Yeah. So a good example of this is one of our customers has bought all of the services. Okay. So we started with search. Okay. And within search, it was like, here is leadership search that we're very well known for. Retained search, where we're executing it within a certain time frame. They get key milestones of the process, all that kind of stuff. So they liked that. We then moved evolved it to our next offering, which is multi-role retained search across lots of different sites, lots of different countries, utilizing economies of scale to bring their pricing to a more palatable price point. And then from there, it was like, okay, we're launching this site or relaunching this site. And we said, okay, who knows about the site? Who knows about the relaunch? We were then able to say, okay, well, let's use our attraction service line. We created a whole narrative with them about why to relocate to this particular site. We got 4 or 5 of their leaders onto a podcast style, video content asset strategy. So then it was like, okay, that's really cool. We're getting somewhere. We can then use that content for candidates, what we call it, to then share with candidates that maybe haven't heard of the company or haven't heard of the location. From that, when we were speaking to those 5 leaders, we were like, oh, wow, there's some really good alignment here. You're all slightly different, but there is good similarities. Have you done any psychometric testing or understanding of your values and behaviors match? They said no. So we said, okay, right. In our assessment tool, we've got something that we can actually map out you guys to see where you're at. And then we can either hire candidates that are the same or that maybe have the same values, but slightly different communication style or whatever it might be. So all of a sudden we've got them buying search, multi-role search, attraction services, and assessment services, all of these things that are helping this client exponentially. Okay, and we're not trying to charge them the earth to do it. We're like, you could do with this help. Let us help you.
Yeah.
Okay, we then move on to the onboarding and retention piece. As this was moving at serious speed, where they were executing a huge site transformation at the same time as hiring people and making some redundancies, we then were able to look at our network of retirees or consultants or advisors that had been through similar site changes, and we were able to use them as onboarding coaches. So this onboarding coach was a third party that worked with the leadership team of an organization and the new executive candidates coming in. That kind of trifecta of a safe space with a real dedicated coach helped onboard much better in that 90, 180, 365 days than they had thought was possible, because their onboarding was the last thing in their mind.
Yeah.
And then all of that ultimately helped retention. So this particular coach went in and did some great work with them. They then retained the coach without us anymore, which was fine. And then that particular coach has worked with the whole site and all its leaders forevermore, trying to ensure that the people are developing, coached, and they retain the best talent. So it was a really good example of how it works. So from one search to this fully embedded ecosystem within, 6 months.
Wow. I think ecosystem is such a nice word in this case. It's clear it all connects. It's all related to your core capability. It's all around search. It's all around people. What I like and what I hope kind of listeners take inspiration from is that you've taken things that you were doing. Lots of recruiters say, we do lots of added value things for our clients, and they remain free add-ons. And they're not really productized. They're not really, what I mean by that is they're not thought of. They're not developed into something, and they're not packaged, and they're not priced up. And my worry there is it's just a little freebie. And actually that's quite hard for a client to value or to understand or to come back and ask you for more of, because we haven't even put a name on it. Whereas it's clear for you that your clients are able to do that. And I imagine your consultants, everyone in the team is able to say, yeah, we've got examples of someone just using this product or using a blend of A plus B or going from search to multi-search.
Yes.
Am I right? Does that make it easier to sell and easier to have those conversations?
It does, I think, because it's like Search Plus. And what you're able to do is speak the language that they understand, because they have a search problem. But then also they have other issues that we can help them unearth, right? Where they might go, okay, we're doing a huge supply chain transformation where we're going to go and hire 100 new leaders. And I'll go, perfect. How are you going to bring that to life? Are you going to talk to them about it during interview? Are you going to do like a big splash campaign? How are you going to use the like attraction piece as a candidate magnet? So you don't even need us. And then that's where it's like, oh, okay, we haven't thought about that. So it's like, okay, well, we can help you bring this to life. Plus, we can also do it when we're speaking to candidates, and we'll have the right circulation of the right information in front of the right people. So, you look at things like employer value proposition. Sometimes it's so vanilla that people just aren't interested. You're better off being more niche within your business and saying, look, this is what we stand for as a whole, and then this is what this part of the business is about to go and do. So if we can help people create that, then great. And then it just cuts through and makes hiring a lot easier.
Yeah, I like that phrase. The client says to you, we haven't thought about that. I think that's something that you get real value from bringing an outsider in, because we're obsessive about search. We're obsessive about people. It's all we do. Therefore, we have thought about that, whatever that is. And the way to show clients that is to ask them these questions where we know they probably don't have an answer. Because, of course, they're trying to spin every plate. They're running the whole business. So, yes, they've thought about hiring, but have they thought about everything within hiring? Almost certainly not. Yeah, and as I say, if you've then productized some of that and said, look, this is so important, and this is actually a product in its own right, and this is how we define it, this is what we do. Of course, this is what we've done previously. That's really powerful and sets you apart from other agencies, of course.
And it's all about understanding the stakeholders that want certain things from you as well, understanding that customer base, because a site head of personalized cancer treatments in a lab, in a lab type environment may not necessarily want all the bells and whistles of some of the ecosystem. But then when you speak to their overwhelmed and under pressure HR or TA leaders, they may want that. So sometimes it's a case of us being in discussions and saying, hey, look, we can help you with this. We've asked you some questions. You've given us a little bit of intel that we could help, but let's not waste your time. Why don't you introduce us to the right people? We can then go and have those conversations with them about these specific topics. So I think that customer understanding is key. And that goes from every aspect of the productization of services, how to bring them to life or how to sell them to those customer groups. Also, how to price them is very important, because some are so traditionally wedded in how they think things should be priced that sometimes you've got to come a completely different angle to try and create more value for them with more products and more services.
Everyone is talking about AI-powered recruiters, but what does that actually look like? With Atlas as your CRM, it means every interaction with your candidate is automatically captured and searchable. If they mention their salary in an email, it's instantly recorded without you having to write anything. And behind the scenes, Atlas discovers every company that a candidate has worked for, the industries those companies operate in, as well as things like company size and description. All this means you can do your job much faster and add more value to your clients. To learn more about Atlas, go to recruitwithatlas.com. Well, obviously you've got me interested talking about price. So give me some examples of the challenges you've had in pricing something new, and I think you were saying there, the expectations that a client brings to the conversation from their previous experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally the industry has a pricing problem.
Yeah.
You've got some people that do the job for free, which I just don't understand from a contingent standpoint. You've got some at the higher echelons where there is zero flexibility, zero agility in pricing, additional costs for administrative fees and things that we think are crazy. Where we want to play is, and this might sound quite weird as the business owner, but I don't really obsess about the cost or the price or the fees or anything like that. It's more like, okay, what's their problem? How can we help them build a partnership over a long period of time? You've got some search firms that were like 35%, a third, plus admin fees, yes or no. You've got us where it's like, okay, cool. How do you want to price this? Is our question. This is how we normally do things. What's going to work for you? What else do you need from us? How can we start to group together other things? Are there any other ecosystem products that you need? Sounds good. So that's how we're going into our negotiations.
Yeah. I often talk about pricing can really communicate a lot of things. So your price, if you go in, if you're cheaper than everyone else, that signals you're probably lower quality, even if that's not what you're trying to do. That's what people pick up on. But it's not just the number. You're right. If your price signals inflexibility, so yeah, I know search firms who say 35% or nothing, and it's like, really, you're assuming that every client is exactly the same, needs exactly the same service, and values you exactly the same. I'm not saying halve your fees when a client pushes back hard. I'm saying it just may not be relevant to charge the same price to every single client you work with. And then, yeah, the admin fees. I think I shared a report with you recently on the state of admin fees in search. Yeah, what does that signal? You say, and I think most search firms would say, we want to build long-term relationships with our clients. Oh, and then I'm going to charge you $7,000 in admin fees. What's that communicating? That for me is not a long-term relationship where you're building trust and looking to the future together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would be more aligned to, trying to give as much value so that the client or the customer is making the right hiring decision before they're even signing an agreement with us. So what can we give to ensure that our credentials, credibility, intelligence, knowledge, sometimes, network, if we have to show people the types of individuals that we are working with before we then embark on the search process itself, we're more than happy to do that. Got nothing to hide. In fact, everything to gain from trying to get the partnership off to the right, on the right footing. Whereas I think, yeah, obviously there are companies that have been around for a lot longer with a lot more influence at board level that don't feel like they need to change their structure, and good on them. But I don't know if at the leadership layer below where we operate, like senior director, VP, SVP, and some C-suite roles, like that layer, I think you need to have a bit more flexibility and understanding of what the customer wants.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see it at all levels. I think you're right. Some people can rely on their brand and their heritage somewhat, but does that last forever? I think it's a risky thing to sit back and just say, great, we can charge. It's not the charging more. I think if you've built a great brand over time, it's relevant to charge a premium. If it veers into perceived arrogance in saying, oh, you've got to pay me admin fees for getting out of bed in the morning, that's the danger. And again, sometimes that swagger can attract clients in the short term, but is it a long-term sustainable strategy? Not in my opinion. So you've rolled out all these different products. I often use the phrase in what I do or how I describe my career to date as retrospective strategy. So in hindsight, it all looks very smart and very planned out. First, I did this and I was building some services. I did a bit of work in marketing, then did pricing, and it all comes together wonderfully. Of course, it isn't like that in reality. So you've given us this, you've painted the picture of this ecosystem of products. What did you learn from building those products? What went well, obviously, but what were the challenges? What did you learn along the way that was that made it a bit bumpier than it might look now?
Yeah, I think it's my job as the founder, owner, CEO, whatever you want to call me, to be able to predict what's going to happen, to be able to forecast what the customers are going to need, to be able to look round corners where other people that I've got their head down in the day to day are focused on executing the plan and the strategy. Okay, so it's my job to keep pushing, keep evolving. My business partner and I, I'm foot on the accelerator, he's foot on the brake and changing the gears. They're the roles that we've got.
Yeah.
Okay. So my biggest challenge with the launch or discovery of products is I'll be incubating ideas, thinking about what's happening, going to get some good data from different pitches or customer discussions that I have, try and get a temp test of what's going on in the business so I'm kind of making the right choices and they're not just kind of coming from out of nowhere. But I start to bring these to life, start to incubate them, start to speak to people about them, start to bring them to life to customers. So it's happening in the background before we then go and launch properly. One of the things that we've had some challenges with is maybe launching too many products too soon. But with that 6-month example of particular client that we had in the US, they were things that were incubated, that we had some test cases for, but were working in a slightly fragmented way. And then they all came together nicely within that 6-month period for that one customer.
Yeah.
If you then have a consultant that's been in your business for 5 years trying to sell all of those products and services to somebody within the first couple of pitch meetings that they've had with them, it can be quite daunting, overwhelming, and confusing. So it was like, okay, cool, let's try and identify the right opportunity to bring the right product or service to life, not try and do all of them at the same time. So we had to go through a little bit of A/B split testing in some of the discussions that we were having, where it's like, what do we say? When do we say it? How do we bring it to life? But that's been probably the biggest challenge, is understanding what are the gateway products that customers really want and need straight away. And then what are the things that actually you can start to layer in once the relationship is cemented and they need more from us.
Yeah. I like that phrase, gateway products. It is a journey. And actually, yeah, we are the experts. We shouldn't just be laying out a menu of things and saying, what do you need? We should be saying, actually, we know what our clients need. Yeah, we know that they start off with, in your previous example, a single search. And then they maybe got a few searches at the same time. And then they maybe want to, they might be opening up a new site that we can help with. So to have those paths and to be able to predict that, again, it's another way for us to show our expertise to our clients. I think you can have great products, but if you just say, here they all are, what do you want? You don't come across as a consultative expert. You come across as, as you say, a little bit overwhelming.
Yes.
We've got so much we could do for you. It's like, but what do you mean?
Yeah, and the tail's wagging, and it's like, okay, cool. I can see so many problems that this customer has got that we can help them with. But the other really interesting fact is that search is not all delivered the same. Okay, so they may think that they're buying search, but they might be buying search badly executed. So
Yeah.
even when we are winning that first opportunity to showcase what we can do, our search process is so meticulous, so white glove service, that the first entry point of them on their ascending transaction model with us is excellence. So it's like, okay, wow, that was a good service. And within our search process, we break that down into certain, almost we've productized search in a way where the look and the feel and the milestones and the way that they work with us is also memorable. So it's not just, okay, we're a search firm, here's some CVs, get going with the process. That's like contingent players trying to play in the big leagues. But also it's not, okay, let's make sure we send one of the partners out to Sweden to come and meet you, and that will happen in 6 weeks' time. And then you might get a shortlist in 4 months after that. It's kind of, we got to play in between those two worlds. So we've got to deliver, white glove service. We call it the perfect process every time in full. And it's like, We just have to make sure that all of those milestones are hit so that customers keep coming back for more.
Yeah. It reminds me of another word, remarkable. If you can create something remarkable, it literally becomes remarked on. And that means, in my world, that means someone remarking on it to someone else they know, to someone else in their network, which feeds into your referral
Yes.
goal to be as referred as possible.
And we've had other, search consultants and people come and join our business and just be like, wow, this is completely different to how we've done things before. And then they can either succeed in our environment or they self-select and they realize that maybe they can't get to that level and that they may be better off servicing clients in a different way. So it's not for everybody, but I think that there is, an absolute need right now for amazing human-led white glove search process, especially in the new age of what's happening digitally.
Yeah, I think any new kind of innovative approach usually comes in at a good enough level. Disruptive things don't come in at a higher quality. They disrupt. So, probably most people listening to this have used ChatGPT to write some things or come up with ideas for them. And it's not all perfect, but it's interesting and it's good enough and it was quick, right? So yeah, I agree. I think in this age, we want to be so far away from good enough as possible. The wider that gap, the less likely someone is to switch to a cheaper automated alternative. Whereas if you're getting a half-assed service and it falls down some of the time, we think, well, maybe I'll just plug it into a computer. If you think, hang on, we talk about things like white glove, but if you can really experience that and it's really memorable, then the idea of losing all of that excellence for a computer to spit out a few numbers and letters at you, you think, well, that's not what I want to do yet.
Yeah, if there are some plugins that can make that process more efficient and then get more human interaction and engagement, I'm all for it. But I'm still yet to see that, the AI or whatever you want to call it, that's blown my mind and really adds value. But there will be stuff out there, but I still think that human aspect is going to be the key.
Yeah. I'm just wondering the terminology you use. I wonder what people are referring. What's the most referred AI tool out there? And there's nothing I've heard about in kind of the HR recruiting space at the moment where everyone is talking about it, saying this is amazing. Things get a bit of a buzz, but yeah, that would be an interesting measure of how successful they are.
Yeah, agreed.
A final question for you. You've said you have the perfect process. And I think you've been quite polite about your competition, but some of your competition are below average, let's say. That's true of any market. If they're charging a similar fee to you, do you ever think, hang on, we could be charging, if we're 50% better than they are, do you ever think, hang on, we should be charging 50% more? How do you see that? How do you process that?
Don't really think about competitors at all, really.
Good idea. Yeah.
And we're doing what we're doing, and people either work with us or they don't. We have that kind of with or without you energy to it. We're focusing on hiring manager satisfaction, candidate experience, quality of hire. They're the things that we want to do. Okay, if we can do that and we're happy with the service and the way that we do it, if our people are personable, driven, credible, and they want to help solve our clients' customers, and I think we're in a good spot. Some people will charge a low fee, but I don't know if it will be in our leadership world. Maybe. And people can go and use that service. They may even have a good service every now and again. But for us, it's like we are where we are, we play where we play, we're consistent. And that's the kind of backbone of what we're all about, I would suggest. So, yeah, to answer your question, do I get jealous? Is that the right word of lower fee? No, not really. I'd rather work with, one company 50 times than 50 companies once.
Yeah. I think to summarize what you've just said there, what came across was your confidence and your belief in your own worth and of what you do. And I think that's so powerful. And I think clients can smell that. They can smell fear and they can smell confidence and success. And I'm sure that helps you to win clients and then retain clients as you go. Thank you so much, Tom, for your time today. Some amazing ideas and successes around products and around everything else. So thank you and good luck with it all.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks again to Tom for sharing his insights and approach. 3 things stood out for me. First, his confidence that search delivers life-changing outcomes for clients, candidates, and the customers of the clients we support. Second, how Tom built his ecosystem of products by analysing what he and his team were already doing for clients and testing those approaches to create products that added real value. And third, the idea of using storytelling to engage clients, set himself up for long-term success, and ultimately drive referrals to more clients. If you found the show valuable, please leave a review and remember to subscribe or follow the show on your podcast app. You can also get more insights and inspiration by signing up to my added value emails on Substack. You can find the link in the show notes. Now, go create some value. Thank you to Atlas for sponsoring the Value of Recruitment podcast. To learn more about how Atlas is creating an AI platform that helps recruitment agencies generate more placements with less effort, visit recruitwithatlas.com.